This is the Footbrawl Podcast with your hosts, Tyler, Andy, and Boyer.
Welcome back to Mantasy Footbrawl Podcast, presented by your Performance Enhancing Dads. What's happening, fellas?
Not much.
Andy's hanging out in East Coast time this week. Boyer's snacking at late nights, whatever.
Well, you know how dads go. Sometimes you don't even manage to eat yourself until 9 o'clock.
That's fair. That's why you were late tonight.
Yep. I was getting my food. DoorDash guy brought it over. Had to make sure I got my plate ready.
He's living the high life, DoorDashing, huh? Got it.
Dude, half the point of getting DoorDash is that you just eat right out of the container it comes from and you don't have to do the dish.
I ordered enough to try and save some for Annie so I could justify it. So I was trying to portion out what I should be eating. The rest will be eaten later. Don't worry about it.
All right, fair enough. All right, so let's jump into fantasy football because that's what we're here for. Last week, week 11, I got a win over the duo, 119 to 110. I was nervous there for a little bit. I'm glad I got that one. Jeremy pulls out a win over Colin, 11 versus 12, puts up a win 89 to 79. Good work, Jeremy. Chris gets a win over Andy. Playoff implications on that one.
Thank you, Chris.
Chris helps the top
division. Thank you, Paul. Let's talk about that.
Chris helps the top division. Chris helps himself in wild card a little bit. Robbie gets a win, 111 to 83 over Charlie. Keeps himself in the hunt. You get Paul putting up a big win over Boyer, 83 to 58. Good work, Boyer, tanking.
That was less Paul and more me. So
this was your week to catch up with Andy catching a loss, and you didn't do it. And then let's go to the last matchup of the week. Mr. Fryer pulls a win out, 97.46 over Walker at 97.40. Walker, when Kyler Murray is questionable all week long and you don't start a quarterback on Sunday, should probably have a contingency plan for Monday. Is that how this works, fellas?
Generally.
That's how I'd have done it. And maybe he felt okay because both of the Monday night quarterbacks were out there, but clearly he wasn't sitting by his phone waiting for the news to drop because Fryer beat him to it. And mad props to Fryer for jumping on it and recognizing what that meant and quick dropping two guys who were pieces on his team, but he bought a win in a way that very seldom do you have the opportunity to buy a win, and he did it. So great work by Fryer.
Yeah, and it was Walker was only up by 2 points. Hopkins was there for Walker, and James Conner was there for Fryer. So, I mean, the two of them, it was going to be a tight race to see who was going to score more anyway. Had you had a quarterback, that game was over.
Right.
So
I want to just talk through the logic of this because I don't follow, because it's either got to go one way or the other, right? So Walker's got Dan Jones on his roster, right? So either he's reluctant to drop Dan Jones for a probably Jimmy G because you're not going to start Colt McCoy. So if you want to cover your ass, you've got two choices. You either just start Dan Jones because they haven't said for sure Kyler's playing, or you drop Dan Jones and grab Jimmy G so that you've got a contingency plan if the word comes out that Kyler's sitting. The keeping of Dan Jones implies that Walker thought that Dan Jones had some value to his team. Like if Kyler misses 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, he would want Dan Jones to be there to start for him because he prefers him over Jimmy G. So if he's too valuable to drop, to just lock in the contingency, isn't he valuable enough then to just plug in if you don't know if Kyler's playing or not? Like if you're that worried about it, if you're like, well, I don't want to start Dan Jones and miss out on Kyler in a matchup that, to be fair, Walker should have handily won, was projected to win handily. Dan Jones should have been fine. He would have been fine to carry you to a win. If you're that worried about it, then Dan Jones isn't the quarterback that's going to save you. You're going to be streaming and whatever if Kyler misses extended time, because you just showed that you don't trust Dan Jones to be your starting quarterback. You shied away from him in a time where you very clearly needed him. So I just don't follow the logic. Either you like Dan Jones enough to screw yourself here, effectively what you did, but if you like him that much, you should have played him. Or you don't like him enough that that you didn't want to play him, and if you didn't like him that much, then you should have dropped him to pick up your contingency before it became an issue. So that's where I'm lost.
Yeah. The good thing is here that Walker, because I beat the duo, still has a
very comfortable
lead in his division. He should be fine. Luckily, this doesn't affect his playoff standings.
You know what it does affect, though? His 9-game not anymore win streak. That's 1 game away from history, buddy. Because Boyer's just got the all-timer with 10, and now it's gone.
So I do want to point out, and I may be wrong, but I'm looking at the stats here. 49ers put in their backup, Brock Purdy. He had 3 rushing yards, which I believe is 0.3 points. And I believe if Walker had picked him up in desperation to start a quarterback of some kind, I believe he would have gotten the win.
Yeah, that is right. I don't know that I would have done that, because the odds of a backup playing in a game are
at that point
relatively slim. But yeah, I guess
to your point though, like what else are you gonna do? Like you gotta find a way to do it.
Also, if you're concerned, our guy Trace McSorley would have also gotten you just under a point to win.
Yeah.
If you want to go to backups.
Not for nothing, and you shouldn't do this, but Walker did have like a 2-point lead, and he did have DeAndre Hopkins against Friars James Conner, which in most weeks this year would have gone Walker's way. So, but there's no reason that this should have been down to the wire. You just put a body in, any body.
The fantasy gods don't like that.
That's true. At least I don't think he did it intentionally the way that Paul did when he was avoiding a negative 4 points or whatever it was that year. But you know, I don't believe in karma, but I do believe in fantasy karma, and we'll see how this goes.
That's fair. All right. Let's get off of that. Walker, I know you watched this. We love you for watching. We just have to let you know how we feel about the week. That's what we're paid to do.
Real quick, like one last thing. We always say Fryer sucks. Great move, Fryer. Like we should definitely applaud Fryer for this.
Definitely.
Fryer, for this week, you don't suck. Congratulations.
Yeah, but Walker sucks because he let Fryer be tied for wild card and totally in it in our division. So screw you, Walker.
Real quick, I'm not gonna pow what am I drinking, but just in case anybody's concerned, I'm about to switch beers. I'm drinking a Kona Longboard right now. Great beer. It's a great beer. If you need any Konas, most Konas are good. Variety pack, Longboard, spot on. Just before I switched over to my next one, and we actually get into pow what you're drinking after True and False. Longboards are solid. Andy, over to you.
Yeah, I'll hit you with our picks from last week. Everybody picked me. Everybody picked Colin. Everybody picked Walker. None of those hit. Everybody picked Ty. Everybody picked Robbie. Those 2 hit. So that's 2 for me and Boyer. Ty, good call picking Paul to beat Boyer. You saw that Boyer's team was shit this week, and it was. So 3 for Ty, 2 for me and Boyer. Season standings, 41 for Boyer, 39 for me, and 36 for Ty. So
I'm not as far back as I thought I was.
Ty's clawing his way back.
I thought I was further
Not like
back.
It would have mattered. Not like it would have mattered, but what happened to the Vikings this week?
They were bad.
Real bad.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
They beat the Bills, and now they decided they didn't have to play football anymore.
Yeah, they
They're
got their
like
win.
the Boyers of the NFL.
All right, you guys ready for some true false? All right, quick call out. I'm pulling it up here just to make sure, but this week was I don't know if maybe you guys weren't aware, but this week was the trade deadline in our league, and there were no trades.
It's a weird year with standings because
So many people moved early, and so many people are clustered in there. Like Fryer has won 3 or 4 straight to get back in it. Colin didn't really want to sell, which is odd because he's in last place now. And Charlie already did his selling. Paul sold last week, and that's pretty much it.
Robbie, Chris, Fryer, Boyer, you, me, Walker, and the duo all still in the playoff run.
Yep, and Fryer. Did you say Fryer? You may have.
So I mean, there's 4 teams that are out of it right now, right? So I mean, that leaves 8 of us in, which means there's only so much selling to do,
right?
Which drove me nuts because I wanted to buy a wide receiver bad, but
and you know what? We're going to talk about playoff scenarios probably next week when things are a little bit less fuzzy. But you named all those teams, and you didn't name Charlie, who is only 1 game out of wild card right now. He doesn't have the points for a tiebreaker, right. So he would have to do some work there. But actually, that's a lie. No, I'm looking at points for, or points against. I mean, no, he doesn't have points. So Charlie's going to have some uphill battle. But I mean, he's only 1 game out, and we've got 4 games left. So that's crazy too.
Yeah. No, well, and that's the point situation. Even Fryer, the point situation's a little rough, but he's not quite as bad off as Charlie is.
Yeah,
I do want to point out that I thought that this whole realignment thing was going to keep the top division from being really good top to bottom, and I'm a little peeved in the second year that we're at 6 and 5 and better. Like, what is this? Can I push for realignment again, like mid-season? Like, can we change things up now, or?
No. I got Colin, which is supposed to be really good. So no.
I'll take Colin and Charlie back. Honestly, let's put them back up in the top division.
Or I do want to throw out that you being 5 and 10 and almost naked last year really hampers your argument in the top division is super good.
I'm making jokes. We're trying to have fun. We're not trying to be jerks.
Don't have jokes. I just want to remind you that you were bad last year because your team's really scary right now.
I was very bad last year.
All right, let's move to some true and false, and I'm gonna pivot right from my totally uninterrupted bringing Charlie into the wild card conversation with this little ditty to bring back a trade from week 3. If he were a wide receiver, Travis Kelce would be wide receiver 1. True or false?
Like a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 1?
The wide receiver number uno. Ahead of Diggs, ahead of Adams, ahead of Justin Jefferson, ahead of everybody.
Ahead of everybody, huh? I'm gonna say false, but we kind of talked about it last week, right? I mean, Kelce has the 7th most receiving yards before this week, and he put up 100 this week. But touchdowns, everything else, I'm gonna say false on 1.
Ty, how many touchdowns does he have? Do you know?
Kelce,
I can tell you because you both answered now.
But no, I'm trying to think because I think the touchdowns might put him at number 1. Tyreek was 1 for a really long time, but that was almost purely off of yards. So, and he had a bye. So I think
Kelce had 3 this week plus 100 yards.
Right. So I'm just thinking like touchdown wise, he's already in double digits this year, right?
You want to know?
He's probably right.
I'm talking this out with my friend here. Okay.
I think he's right at 10. So he's
right at 10.
He's there.
Man, I'm gonna say because of the touchdowns that he is wide receiver 1 then, because I think he has enough juice with the touchdowns to push him over.
I say top 3. I don't know about 1. So Andy, go ahead and give me your answer.
All right, so For most of the year, Stephon Diggs has been wide receiver 1. Tyreek's been there off and on, but because of the touchdowns, it's been Stephon Diggs for most of the year. Now, in the last couple of weeks, Devontae Adams has come on and has passed Stephon Diggs for wide receiver 1. Devontae Adams has 925 yards and 10 touchdowns. Is Kelsey better or worse than 925 and 10?
I'm going to say worse. I'm going to say same touchdowns, probably less yards.
Well, right, because we just said he has I know he has at least 10.
Right. Same touchdowns, less yards. So he'll be wide receiver 2.
Sure.
He has 855 yards and 11 touchdowns,
Ugh.
which is good for 1 point behind Devontae Adams, except he has a 2-point conversion. Travis Kelsey would be wide receiver number 1 should he have been a wide receiver.
How much did he go for in the draft? Like 45?
I think 48 or something like that. He got higher than I expected him to, but he's still clearly well worth it. Now, this is not a true false. How many points separate CeeDee Lamb from Travis Kelsey, Charlie, ye of 1 game out of wild card?
I'm gonna bet a lot.
I'll
Like
just
a
tell you,
lot.
it's like 48.
It's like a
48
lot.
point gap. Yeah. So that's a bummer for people named Charlie. And not a bummer for people named Tyler.
Good job,
Well, it's
Tyler.
a bummer for some people named Tyler.
Fair.
That's me, Tyler.
All right, moving on.
In case
'cause I got a
anybody
bunch of
forgot my
these.
first name.
All right, Tony Pollard is RB6 on the year. True or false?
I'll say true. I know that he was like up sniffing the top 12 like, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks ago. Breece Hall went down. Zeke went down. He started getting a bunch of the carries. I could see it.
Well, after this last couple weeks performance, was Zeke being out and him just tearing up?
Which he did against the Bears too. When he had a monster game against the Bears.
Right. Well, and I don't know how far behind he was to start, but like Joe Mixon got hurt this week. He didn't have a great week. He put up 6 fantasy points. So 20 points.
Joe Mixon has had that 150-point game to give me a loss, and that's been all he's pretty much done all year. So
That's all I asked of him.
but I know that he was up there. But he had a bad week again this week and was injured. Who else?
Yeah, I think he was a solid RB2, and then Zeke went down, and then there was a couple other injuries. Some other running backs didn't play as well. Lenny has fallen off a little bit. I think I would say running back 6 seems fine. This seems right.
Yeah, I mean, you got McCaffrey, you got Eckler that should be up there still.
Yeah.
Shaw,
If we're
should
wrong,
be
he's
up there
RB8.
still.
I'm not going to feel bad about it, but
Right. Sure. I mean, yeah, he's top 6 just because he's had 2 huge performances.
He's RB8.
I don't even feel bad about it.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You've got Henry, Chubb, Eckler, Jacobs, Saquon, McCaffrey at 6, Jamal Williams at 7 with his 12 touchdowns,
Jeez.
and then Tony Pollard. Pollard's only 5.5 points behind McCaffrey for 6, though, for number 6. So, considering his last 3 games, he's put up 32, 19, and 31. He's gained a bunch of ground lately.
Dallas has had their bye too, right?
Yeah, that was over the last 4 weeks. I think
Yeah, so
he's
that-
RB1, even with the fact that they had a bye. Let me double check that.
Yeah. So I mean that might change like as we go through the season, even with Zeke returning, if he still is able to be, that 12 points a game or whatever, which he
Right.
is very capable of doing even with Zeke there.
Yeah. Over the
Um,
last 4 weeks, he is RB2. Derrick Henry's ahead of him, but in 1 more game. So
So I could definitely see him entering top 5 territory by the end of the year, even with Zeke coming back. His touchdowns will probably take a little bit of a hit, but he's always been predicated on just getting big chunk yards, when he gets in. So
right.
I believe in Pollard. I believe in Pollard.
All right. Quarterback question. Geno Smith, Marcus Mariota, and Dan Jones are all top 10 quarterbacks. True or false?
False.
False for Mariota, but Dan Jones might be.
It's the Mariota one that got me. That's why I went to false right away.
He's had some good games, and he's been relatively consistent, like getting like in that like 15-point range when he has like a bad game for the most part. And he's had some bigger games, but I don't know if it's been consistent enough. I mean, we've seen Brady fall off as far as fantasy goes, so like that's a guy that you would expect to be top 10, and he's not. Like Rodgers, same thing.
Rodgers, right?
Right. Russell Wilson, who's got 7 touchdowns on the year.
Justin Herbert's been struggling.
Yeah.
But is Mariota above them?
I'm just saying is that I could see where he might be sniffing it just because he's been consistent when he's been bad, and he's had a couple like pop games, and that's kind of why he floats around on the waiver wire and people pick him up, and just start him because like who you
People
just
pick him
hope
up
for one of those games.
Right.
Oh,
All right. So I'll tell you, Mariota only has 2 games over 20 points. They were 22 points and 24 points. He's got 2 games under 10 points. One of them was 4 points and the other one was 7.5. He has played 11 games where most of these quarterbacks have played 10, but he's QB9.
Wow.
Quarterback's been bad. And like, I mean, the extra game helps. I'm not going to say that it doesn't. If you take the average, then things are different. He's like QB 12 or something like that. And like Tua jumps up because he's missed a few games and that kind of thing. So things change a bit.
So Dan Jones is 10 and
Is
Gino's
number 10.
8.
Gino's number 7. Kyler's number 8, but he's only played 9 games.
So I have numbers. So here's the crazy stat as far as why quarterbacks suck. In the NFL, the like average yards per carry is the highest it's been since like 1936 or something ridiculous. Like a bunch of teams have gone into this ridiculous like figuring out ways to run the ball and all that stuff. And then points per game is down to like 19.6 points per game, which is the lowest in the NFL since 2009. So there's like this big shift in what we had been seeing with these big passing attacks now being throttled down based off like what the defenses have figured out a way to, two shell or whatever to keep them down. And the rushing attacks have been what has been propelling a lot of offenses forward, which is why we see a lot of random running backs doing well in any given week.
Yep.
That feels weird that Mariota's quarterback 9. I don't like that. It makes me feel
Same. Who's he throw the ball to?
It's a good question. He runs
Kyle
the ball
Pitts until he gets to the end zone.
Not anymore.
Pitts isn't good. London hasn't been good.
Olamidas, Zacchaeus,
Corduroy,
like his name.
Corduroy's been injured for like 5-6 weeks, right? I mean, he just came back.
Good chunk of that.
I don't know. All right, I clearly don't watch enough Atlanta football.
Oh, that's all I watch. I love watching Atlanta play. You know it.
Nope.
All right, Andy, you got any more? Or?
I got 3 more if we want them.
Let's maybe hit the one and see how that goes, and then possibly a second.
All right. Over the last 4 NFL weeks, Pat Freiermuth is 4th in tight end targets, despite only playing 3 games because of their bye.
He's 4th in tight end targets.
But he only played 3 games. So has he been hot enough to be top 5 in targets? Number 4.
Pickett's been playing, right?
Yeah.
Kelsey's going to be 1.
Kelsey is 1, and he's only played 3 games as well.
I
But that's a very different thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hawkinson's been getting targeted, but is he more targeted than Freiermuth? Komet's got touchdowns, but not targets.
Andrews has been injured.
Andrews been injured.
I think I'm okay with that. I think I'd say true.
Not Hayden Hurst. Yeah, because Hurst is in Cincinnati. I don't know what he's been getting targeted. Top 5?
I said number 4.
Number 4. Okay. He is number 4.
Andy, do you
Kelsey
have
is 1.
the Broncos tight end Dortch? Do you have his numbers at all? Is he even in the realm of
Scroll
your
down
numbers?
a lot. I could find it.
Okay.
Dortch,
I just know there was one game where he was targeted quite a bit, and I don't know if that's been like.
Dortch is a
continuing
wide
despite them
receiver.
The Dulcich, sorry, Dulcich.
Those
The
are
D
Broncos.
the
names.
Rams or the Broncos.
Rookie
Yeah.
D names, Dulcich. Yeah.
From
that
the
guy.
Broncos.
Broncos, right.
Okay, I'm trying to follow your bouncing ball here, and it's not going.
Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah,
I know that he had been getting targets, but I don't know if I mean they haven't been doing anything with him because of the Broncos, but
yeah, a lot
he
of
was the
teams
only
have
one
had
that
the
I would-
bye in the last 4 weeks, and he is
Okay.
one of them. But he's only got 14 targets in the last 4 weeks, 3 games for him.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna say it goes Kelsey, Higbee, Hawkinson, and then Freiermuth. Higbee's gotten 8. He had 1 week where it was only like 1, but these last couple he's gotten like 8, 9 targets.
Yeah.
And I don't
Boyer,
know
what
who
you
the
got?
hell else.
I'm going to say
who the hell
true.
else is getting targeted.
You're both
Oh,
right.
Kittle, though.
It's true.
What about Kittle?
Kelsey,
Okay.
Hawkinson, Pitts, Freiermuth, Higbee. Kittle's down a ways, but I don't think he's played as many games.
Okay.
Kittle's got 3 games, only 13 targets in those 3 games, but he had 1 game where he had two targets, 1 catches against the Chargers.
That was last week because I was looking at Boyer why he didn't start Kittle over.
It's because Kittle had 2 targets last week.
Right.
Very fair.
Yeah. That's tight end's a weird situation this year. You just
Yeah, I
gotta
kind of figured.
figure out who's
I kinda
hot
figured-
at that point in time.
Yeah, I kind of figured the Dallas Minnesota game would be like a tough game for both teams, and when that happens, Dak leans on Schultz. So I was like, okay, this guy's a lock for some targets and some points, and then Kittle, did things with his targets, and Schultz didn't. So,
All right, one more. That one took us a little bit longer than I hoped.
All right, you want the wide receiver one or the running back one?
running
Yes.
back,
Sure.
All right. Najee has more points than Jonathan Taylor. True or false?
true,
On the year?
On the year.
True.
true.
Interesting. It is true. I'm surprised how confident you guys were in that.
But Jonathan Taylor sat out a handful of weeks.
And he was a ghost before that. And I mean,
Right.
Najee has been a ghost of himself, but he isn't just a ghost.
Right. Well, and Taylor had a big week 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
And
but
then
that's been pretty
Najee
much
had a
it.
big week this week. So I mean those kind of counterbalance each other.
Yeah, Taylor had a big week 1 and a big week last week. Najee had mostly just a big week this last week. Najee is 5 points, 6 points ahead of Jonathan Taylor in 2 more games. So
Jonathan Taylor is running back
24.
24.
But he's only
Glad I
played 8
didn't get
games,
hit-
so if
glad
you
I
look
didn't
at
draft
average, it's a
him.
little better. But yeah, clearly he's been bad.
Yeah.
Najee's number 22. Brees Hall is between them.
Yeah.
Go Brees Hall. He's pretty much
I
that
mean,
offense now. I feel really confident about his role in
His
the Jets
role?
offense going forward.
I mean, honestly, the biggest, quickest answer to that was Taylor was injured and a shell of himself, and Najee's been
Najee has at least played.
he's been at least 8 to 10 points most weeks. It's not what you want out of your running back one, but
Right.
at least he's been consistently playing.
Yeah. He's playing and trudging to that 7-point average.
Yep. Fair. Well, for how confident you guys were, this question would have been false last week because Najee gained 10 points on him this past week. So
That's fair.
Yeah. Crazy. All right. Well, let's go to my favorite segment a second time, and a real segment this time. A little. Ow! What you drinking? Andy, what do you got? Yes, nothing. Nailed it. Water.
Man, that's even worse than usual.
Boyer, what do you got?
Sam Adams Winter Lager tonight.
Nice. Solid beer. My second beer is Revolution Anti-Hero.
Ooh, good one.
So it's another enjoyable beer. Went from
That's an IPA,
lager-
right?
Yeah, I went from a lager to an IPA. So
It's not too hoppy.
I like hoppy. so
Doesn't
I
taste
don't
like a pine tree or.
No, it
Good.
does not. You're right.
So I mean, some of them do taste like pine trees. Like you can't say they don't. I like IPAs, but there's some that's like, whoa, that's not the one I wanted.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you on that. I went on we had a wristbands last weekend at a bar with the softball team, and it was all you can drink anything on tap. And I had a couple IPAs there that were a little rough, so I feel it. I drank them because I'm a man, and that's what I do.
Right, you got to finish it.
So,
There are starving children in Africa who could use that beer.
that's right. It was free beer on tap all night. I had to finish it. So, all right. Anyway, let's jump into week 12.
I have to take this one.
Andy, you know how this works.
I know how this works.
I almost pushed this one to the end, but I can't. I go first. It's how it works. Hit me and Boyer's matchup for me.
All right, I'm gonna do Ty first because that's how it shows up on my screen. Ty, Foreman against Denver, or Singletary against Detroit. Detroit's pretty bad against the run. I think you're probably leaving it that way. But any feelings about Foreman this week?
I made that switch today, and I think I'm just gonna leave it that way. Carolina just looked bad last week, and I get Buffalo's not a bad run defense, but I expected even against a halfway decent team, he was going to get more than 11 carries and put up, at least 50 yards. And that
What
didn't
about-
happen. So
What
That's-
about
that's-
Cam Akers against the Chiefs now that
Right.
Henderson's gone? No, nothing feelings.
I still can't do it. Singletary's had
I wouldn't touch
Singletary's
the
had
Rams
3
offense.
Singletary's had 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. I'm hoping that becomes more of a trend where he gets 15 carries and a touchdown. He's not gotten a lot of yards. He's gotten 47 and 86, but he has gotten 3 rushing touchdowns, which he had not done up until week 11 or week 10.
So something I'll say as a Josh Allen owner is that I noticed that Josh Allen has had some really bad red zone interceptions recently. And I think that what we're seeing with Singletary and his touchdowns is that once they get to the red zone, they're trying to lean less on Josh Allen and like force him to play like that hero ball where he feels like he has to make that tight pass and essentially turn it over and with what should be points, and instead just hand it off to a guy with a good offensive line, punch it in, and move on. So I see that trend continuing, at least to a degree enough where Singletary is I think someone that you can trust going forward.
Against Detroit, I'm leaving it.
Oh, against Detroit for sure. Yeah.
All right,
Next year-
so let's talk about that because since the bye, Detroit had a bad week against Zeke and Pollard in week 7 coming out of the bye.
But who hasn't?
Since week 7, though, week 8, 9, 10, and 11, the highest scoring fantasy running back against the Detroit Lions defense, Matt Breida last week got 8.9 points because he scored a touchdown. They shut Saquon down, 15 carries for 22 yards.
Yeah, but I think with the Giants and not having Wandale and having no receiving weapons, I think that the Lions can key on Saquon. With the Bills, you cannot just key on the running back because that is not the strongest part of the Bills game.
That's fair. And I mean, the Rams or the Bills are probably going to do whatever they want against the Lions because the Bills are a very different team than the Giants. But I mean, they shut down Aaron Jones, they shut down Raheem Mostert, they shut down Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery. Granted, Justin Fields had his way with them, but they've locked down the running back these last 3-4 weeks. So some to ponder at least.
I think
Yeah,
that the
but
Bills.
I don't
think
trust Foreman. He's had 2 bad weeks in the last 3.
Yeah.
And then
But Singletary hasn't been really great fantasy wise until he started scoring touchdowns lately.
No,
and
but
that's what I'm thinking is that the trend will continue. They will continue to give him goal line or within 5 or 10 yards carries, and that's if he gets 40 yards against a tough-ish rushing defense, whatever, it'll be the touchdown that carries the day here over
Yeah.
Foreman.
The other thing you could do is bump McCaffrey up, and then do you want to get
Throw a
Keenan
wide
Allen
receiver in.
in here? I'm guessing. I mean, you could throw Dotson in there because he's been so hot, but it feels like you're chasing, or not Dotson, Watson. But it
Watson.
feels like you're chasing a bit if you do that. And Philly's pretty good against the pass, so let's just say it's Keenan Allen. Do you want Keenan Allen in over Ayuk or Singletary this week?
I'm not. I had debated putting Keenan Allen in over Ayuk just because Ayuk has been touchdown dependent. He's had what 6 touchdowns this year. Outside of those touchdown games, his highest game without a touchdown is 82 yards. So
Yeah.
it's 8.2 points is a high outside of touchdown weeks. The Niners should score against New Orleans, so that shouldn't be a problem. But where's it going to go?
Sure.
I mean,
Does
2
it
touchdowns
matter if Mike Williams is in or out? Because it sounds like he tweaked his high ankle sprain.
I think if he's out, then you can play Keenan confidently.
But do you play him over Ayuk or do you play him over Singletary?
probably over Ayuk.
And you'd have to Singletary
New
plays
Orleans-
Thursday,
New
so
Orleans
you'd have to make
defense
that call.
New Orleans defense has been tough enough that I could see where the concern about having 2 49ers on the roster and spreading it out a little bit. Keenan Allen is going to have a good floor, I think. So I could see over Ayuk.
Arizona just got beat up in the air against the Niners.
Yeah.
I mean, the Niners are good, but
And the other thing
their
is,
secondary
it's
got
not
torched.
yeah, I would say, granted, it wasn't because they were throwing it deep downfield. It was because the 49ers have ridiculous guys after the catch. I mean, like Deebo Samuel, like there was a bunch of guys who had, like, I don't know, 5-yard depth to target that turned into a 40-yard touchdown or long
Kittle had
play.
2 of them.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not saying is that's the they didn't get torched through the air because they were letting these deep bombs go by him. But Keenan Allen is a guy who's going to get a depth target of 9 or 10 yards and see what he can do, and he'll get targets if Mike Williams is gone. So if Mike Williams is out, I think you play Keenan Allen for sure.
Yeah,
All
and
right,
Josh
so
Palmer showed that he's a good second option. So it's not like we're killing Keenan Allen doubled up every time just because there's nobody else. Josh Palmer's fine.
Yeah,
Sure.
Gerald Everett, if he's, I'm assuming he's not. I think he picked up an injury, but he's been okay the last couple of weeks. He's good enough to also have to worry about as a defense. So
All right,
you're
let's
not
move
doubling
to
Keenan every time.
let's move to Boyer's
let's
side.
move to Boyer and the
This
aforementioned
is the
Mike
problem
Williams.
this is the problem when people have depth benches.
Right? We're gonna have that issue on my team too. I'm assuming Boyer's gonna get Kittle in over Dalton Schultz, based on last week, and I'm assuming that Mike Williams isn't gonna play based on what I've heard, but maybe he does. But let's assume he doesn't. Boyer, you getting Boyd in or Paris Campbell, or you like Brandon Cooks to disappoint you this week? What's the plan?
So I have been on the fence of dropping Brandon Cooks, like just dropping him at this point for the last 3 weeks, and I can't bring myself to do it. I feel like I should, but
Yeah,
I just can't do it. Like who knows when all of a sudden they'll be able to figure it out enough for him to get an extra touchdown here or there and that 70 yards
On your
that
bench.
he was used to. So well, I mean, for playoffs, it might matter. I've had some injuries this year. I might need him. So I don't trust Cooks at all. I think I trust Paris Campbell the most to at least get me points. Matt Ryan seems to really like him. He has the opportunity to get a couple touchdowns with Matt Ryan, although I can't count on that. But there's the ceiling there of that being the case. And Boyd has had some monster games too, but lately he hasn't quite gotten it going. So I think Campbell is the more consistent player. I'd probably put Campbell in, but I wouldn't feel good about it.
I would absolutely put Campbell in over Boyd. Both defenses, Pittsburgh and Tennessee, have not been good against the pass. Campbell has had more targets, had more opportunity. I think Campbell is absolutely the play.
You know what would be really nice if I had like a really good white guy who could run really great routes and get like 15 or 20 points a game. That would be fantastic.
All right, but he
could wear like
doesn't.
gold and blue.
He doesn't get to have all of his legs.
Honestly, cup on one leg, I take my chances on that.
All right. So who you guys got in this one? I'll let you both pick first.
Actually, I have a real quick question. Pierce had a rough game last week. He had like, I don't know, 7 yards or something stupid. Are we concerned about that situation right now at all? He had all the carries, but that offense is no good. So is that something that we're concerned about, that he can't repeat?
I mean, that's the first time he didn't get you double-digit fantasy points since week 2. So
Sure.
if it happens again, maybe, but that guy's been super consistent.
And
I'm not
Miami-
worried about it.
Whenever you
Miami's-
see a guy throw up a complete dud like that, you have to wonder, like, is the offense, like, as the team quit? I mean, we're getting late in the year. Like, what's
Kinda like a
his longest
Deontay
rush of the
Foreman
game?
situation.
Longest rush of the game was 3 yards, and he got absolutely stuffed on that play, and that was like the best that they could do. It's not an indictment on him; it's more of an indictment on the offense. But like, looking at that, I was like, that's got to be worried.
Washington's run defense is one of the better run defenses.
That's true. They've got a good defensive line for sure.
They've got Miami this week, and I'm not worried about Miami's front line on the run.
Yeah, I think Chicago had a pretty good game against them. A lot of teams have had pretty good games against them if they've been good rushing teams, but
Yeah,
it still makes me it makes me nervous.
I get it.
I'm not worried about it. If it happens again, we can talk about it, but one game I'm not worried about. Everybody has a dud.
So going back to who's going to win, I'm going to take me mostly for Aaron Jones against Philly, ETN against Baltimore. I think those are tough situations, and Mike Williams being questionable, most likely out, I think is going to hurt Boyer's side. So I'm going to take me on it, mostly because of a couple matchups for Boyer.
Yeah, I am going to agree with Ty before we go to Boyer. I think Boyer's got some tough matchups. Clearly, his team's not 100% because he's lost Cup, he's lost Hall. But it should still be a decent matchup. I don't think Boyer's going to get smoked here. I mean, Tyler Bass could score half your points this week. But, I mean, I got to give it to Ty. Ty's team is stacked. Mahomes and Kelsey can drag his team to a win, as we've seen a few times this year. And the rest of his team is also decent.
I don't disagree with anything you guys are saying, but I've got to believe. I'm Ted Lasso with the believe sign up there. I gotta smack the sign, say I believe. Josh Allen against Detroit is a juicy matchup. Like, that's a matchup that I do like.
Yeah, he's
and
going to give it to Singletary all day, baby.
And Mike Williams' injuries is not significant. It sounds like they almost pulled him out of caution more than anything else. And I think there's a chance, a decent chance that he plays. And if he does, I like my chances against him. Against Arizona is a decent matchup too. Tyreek against Houston. Hopefully Houston and Damian Pierce can go out and get a couple touchdowns and put some pressure on them. If things break my way, I think I've got it. So I'm going to believe in my team. Ty, I know this is a tough matchup, but after losing to Paul, I'm hoping the fantasy gods help reverse things my way a little bit.
So, Boyer, let me ask you a quick question about Mike Williams, though. They say it's not significant, but when the final of that KC game is 30-27 and they lost, if it wasn't significant, you think they wouldn't have ruled him out? Like,
I think it's one of those things where he came, like, he tweaked it. He went to the bench and the trainers were like, yeah, you tweaked it a little bit. And they said, fine, like, just, we're not even going to worry about it because it was a high ankle sprain. Let's reevaluate later. And when they reevaluated, they're like, okay, like they said it's not significant. They said it's fine. So I'm going to go based off of the newer information. Then in game, you're like, yeah, pull this guy. We don't want him to be out for the year. We might need him in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's one of those things where it's a long-term play. That's totally understandable. You don't even, like, you just wash your hands of it and say, that's fine. We got Keenan Allen out there now. Palmer's been fine, whatever. So if they say it's not significant, I'm assuming that came with new information. Next day he was like, yeah, that I tweaked it. It's feeling better today. And every day it seems to be getting better. So now if he's out, he's out. And that's, I mean, I've got to make the decision. But I think that there's a good chance that he plays.
Okay.
And if he does, then I'm gonna count on him because he's better than my other options, I think.
All right. Well, Boyer, you want to take me to Jeremy versus Chris?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm like my guys are way out of order in comparison to all of yours, so like I gotta actually find them.
They should be in order because my game should have been at the top for you this week.
Oh, we're at the top. You're right. Look at that. All right, so I'm gonna start with Jeremy here. On the bench, he's got Burks on the bench. If you believe in the big play hype, he's got Nico Collins on the bench. Those are probably the only guys I'm considering putting in. But he's got Montgomery, Mostert, Kirk, St. Brown. I don't really see he's changing anything. You guys seen any changes that I'm not?
No, because I'm probably leaving Allen Robinson in against Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, Robinson's wide receiver 1 now, and even if you don't like the player or the team or anything, like he's the chances of a touchdown is better than what he's got on the bench.
Well, Allen Robinson's had 7, 5, 6, and 5 for targets. And in the last 2 weeks, Burks came in, finally getting healthy, and he's gotten 6 and 8. So, I mean, he's getting just as targeted as Allen Robinson is.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe the team is better, but I don't know that the Rams are better than Tennessee.
Oh no, they're definitely not. But
So,
I guess my point is that like I would trust my I don't know the on paper Allen Robinson versus Burks coming off the injury. I mean, like he's gotten the targets, and there's always that chance that I think he could definitely outplay Allen Robinson. But I don't know if I'm taking that chance against KC. Like with Allen
Robinson. Here's the problem. I think Jeremy needs to take a little bit of a shot here, and it may be Burks.
I mean, he got a win last week.
I understand. He wants another one, and I would love for him to beat Chris.
I feel like it would be getting cute to put in Burks, and maybe it won't be a couple weeks from now. We say, yep, Burks is definitely the better player, but I think it's too early right now to say for sure. So I think I can keep Robinson in.
I go back and forth. I mean, Burks had 7 catches for 111 yards. Clearly the best game of his career last week against Green Bay.
One of the only games of his career.
Yeah, I mean, this is the 6th game of his career. But yeah, he missed some time. And I mean, clearly he's healthy, which is the main concern, right? Robinson's been bad. He scored a touchdown last week, but if he doesn't score a touchdown, his high game is 54 yards. In the games he doesn't score a touchdown. So, and maybe it's slightly different since Cup's gone. They're definitely going to have to throw because they're going to be losing to Kansas City. But I mean, Robinson's just been so bad, and Jeremy could use a bit of upside. I think I'm going Burks. I would not be mad if he leaves Robinson in because of the game script that I expect to happen in that Chiefs game. But I think I'm going Burks.
Yeah, but Tennessee's going to have to keep up with Cincinnati as well.
That's probably true.
Tennessee's defense has been at least off and on better than expected. So yeah,
for sure. All right, hit us with Chris's side. I think that's the only thing we need to argue on Jeremy's side.
Yeah, just looking at the bench for Chris, he's got Rondale Moore is questionable. Pickens and Deontay. He's got Curtis Samuel likely on the bench. So, I mean, the only one that like jumps out at me is someone that you may consider replacing. You can't bench Jamal Williams at this point. You can't bench what's his face. Chase is questionable. Did he play last week?
No, I don't think he's playing this week either. They're
No.
saying
Okay.
day to day, but he literally just got off crutches, and he wasn't supposed to be putting pressure on his hip from everything I had been hearing up until this week when he just got off crutches, and they're expecting him to be worked back into practice to play full time come Sunday. I don't
Fair.
think so. I'm not banking on that. Let's say that.
Well, I thank you, Dr. Andrews. Sorry, my TV turned on. It distracted me. So Darius Slayton would be the only one on paper, but he's been really solid recently. And I don't know if I trust the other guys any more than I do Slayton. So, like, do you guys have a preference? Slayton, Pickens, Johnson, Samuel? Pick one. Maybe two. If Chase doesn't play.
If Chase doesn't play, I'm leaving Slayton in, although Dallas is not a great matchup. And then I'm putting George Pickens in.
So Dallas is a middle of the road matchup against wide receivers. They score a lot of fantasy points, but they're ball hawks that aren't always top defenders.
Right.
So Slayton, I feel like Slayton's been good lately, but Slayton's also a guy who can get you 1 for 18. And when you're playing Jeremy, that's not what you want. So I'm going to say the same thing that I say a lot of weeks for Chris, and I'm going to play Curtis Samuel over Slayton because I want to lock in a 4-point floor, and Samuel can do something for you even if even beyond the 4 points, but I'm going to lock in the floor of Curtis Samuel, make sure that I'm not creating a window for Jeremy to get in here because Slayton only got me a point, and that's how I'm going to play it.
So
I mean,
then when Chase is out, are you playing Slayton or are you playing Pickens?
That's tough because Slayton's a Thursday game, so I would probably take Slayton out, put Samuel in, and then have to play Pickens if Chase doesn't play. Because Slayton's on Thursday and Chase is Sunday, so we won't know at game time. But
So
because
Slayton,
Chris has so many options, I'm fine sitting Slayton to put Pickens in if I have to.
His whole lineup plays Thursday.
Yeah, well, then we'll know how this game's going to go by then.
So Slayton in the last 4 weeks, 11 points, 6 points, 15, 8. And it's been, he's had a floor of yards, 58 yards, 66 yards, 95 yards, 86 yards. Like,
Sure.
Do we not trust that? Is that what we're trying to say?
I mean, that's 4 weeks. If you go back one more week, then you pick up a 1 catch for 18 yards.
Sure, but there was a clear like change when that happens. Like, you can't ignore the fact that they clearly are now using him as one of their primary, if not their primary, wide receiver. So
Sure.
you could say the same thing on the other side about Burks. It's like, oh well, he sucked before because he was injured or whatever. Like, clearly they're using him differently now, and they're more confident in him being their possession guy.
I mean,
Keenan Allen.
we're 4 years into Slayton, and he's got 413 yards on the year and 2 touchdowns. Like, there's a difference between a rookie quarterback coming into it halfway through the year and a guy in his 4th year being like, maybe they like him now.
Right, but I guess is that we're saying, Burks has a ceiling, which I understand Slayton doesn't. But obviously Slayton does have floor that you're asking for. Well, I guess is my point.
So in my opinion, they both have a high ceiling and a low floor. But Jeremy needs the high ceiling, whereas Chris needs a high floor.
I guess I'm talking about Slayton. He clearly now has a high floor. Like,
I disagree.
Slayton
is a guy who can and has disappointed us many times over the last 4 years, including twice this year when he was healthy. The last 4 games is nice to see, and depending on your fantasy team, you can start him. I'm not saying don't ever play him. But I'm not going to say that Slayton's a floor guy now. That's absolutely not true. Tyler.
Yes, Ty.
That's me. So can I say George Pickens has a floor? Can we? He's had one bad game.
That's fair.
Can we just put Pickens in and stop arguing?
I mean, Pickens
sure.
has more than one bad
game. I've had a love for Pickens, so we're gonna put Pickens in and we're gonna move on. It's fine. He was a rookie the first 3 games. Leave the first 3 games alone. All right.
I'm sorry. The one thing I'll say here, Curtis Samuel has 2 targets, 4 targets, 4 targets, and 4 targets in the last 4 weeks. Slayton has 10 targets, 4 targets, 6 targets, and 6 targets. So I think that if you're looking for a floor, Slayton is probably just as good as Slayton or as Samuel. But yes, Pickens might be the play there, Ty. I can't disagree, especially against Indianapolis.
All right. Can we pick a winner here and move on?
Yeah, Chris.
Andy, what are you doing?
I'm
Say
going
it.
with Jeremy.
Say it.
Whoa.
I'm going with Jeremy. It feels weird, but I'm going with Jeremy.
That's bad because I was about to pick Jeremy too.
Well, hopefully I gain a game on this one.
mostly because I don't like Chris's wide receiver 2 flex situation. And Williams against Buffalo. Buffalo has a good defense, so maybe he
Cousins
doesn't
against
get
the
3
Patriots,
touchdowns
not
this week.
ideal either.
Right. It's tough matchups on Chris's side.
In a primetime game, Chris probably is going to have to pick up Jimmy G.
Yeah.
He's not available right now.
Cousins 4 points guaranteed. It's prime time.
All right. So anyway, all right. Me and Andy are taking Jeremy. Boyer takes Chris. Let's move on. That was something. All right.
Listen, I like arguing with people, even if I'm wrong.
I can tell.
It's valuable content to our 7 viewers.
Yeah, let us know how you like our arguments down there and stuff.
Yeah, who is right?
All right. George Pickens, always. Go ahead. The duo versus Colin. Let's jump into that one. We're going to start with the duo side. The duo has Tyler Lockett situation, but I don't know that we're sitting out Tyler Lockett. Pittman and Waddle, I feel like are pretty much locked in over Sutton and Thielen. Lockett also, and over.
I think I'd put Patterson in if he's healthy. I mean, the Redskins, the Commandos' run defense is pretty good, but Patterson gets it done. He hasn't gotten it done the last couple weeks, which is fair. So Boyer will say that he's no good anymore. But
he had a kick return.
Yeah, that too. So I would play Patterson over Lockett.
Okay. I'm not sure that I'm willing to make that move. I think if you're going to play someone, I hate it, but I'd probably take the shot on Sutton against Carolina. But I don't even like that situation.
Yeah.
I think Washington. Yeah, I think Washington's all right. Well, and he's got the Pitt situation, so he currently doesn't have a tight end.
Yeah, they're gonna have to figure something out.
We'll see what happens there. Colin has players with names. He has Geno Smith on the bench against Las Vegas, or Russell Wilson against Carolina. Thoughts on that one?
I gotta go Geno at this point.
Yeah,
he's been doing it all year.
He's 19 to 20 points, so Russ is not that.
Yeah.
So I think you have to just throw Geno in and hope for the best. If it is bad rain, if there's a big issue, then whatever. They play pretty similar. They play the noon and the 3 o'clock game or whatever.
Yeah.
So you can figure that out come Sunday. But assuming there's no monsoons, I'm playing Geno.
Also, I'm convinced that Colin is holding on to Kairos Santos just because it pisses me off at this point, because Tucker's back from his bye, and Justin Tucker's a lock for your kicker. Colin's just doing it because he likes hearing me be mad about it on the podcast.
It gives him extra airtime. Denver versus Carolina, or okay, I would agree. I'm not playing New Orleans against San Fran. New Orleans been a solid defense, like fantasy wise. They get 4 to 7 points most weeks, but like against San Francisco, I'm not banking on anything big. So take the shot against Carolina.
Yep.
Boyer, anything to add on any of those situations?
No, I don't think so.
No, cool. All right, who's gonna win?
Duo.
Duo?
Duo.
Oh, damn! I was hoping Boyer was different than us again. All
Not
right,
on this one.
Andy,
What's up?
Mr. Primetime Fryer versus Paul.
Well, this one should be a little bit different for Fryer this week than last week. Fryer's got Rashad White at the flex. Are we comfortable with him as a week-to-week fantasy starter over a guy like James Robinson, Judy, MVS, Damian Harris? I think I'm fine with keeping him in there. He seems to be the guy. He got
Ask me if
22
I'm
carries in week 10.
Ask me if I'm comfortable with him being a flex. My answer is no. But over the
Because
rest of his team, yes.
I mean, yeah, that. So I don't think there's any lineup decisions on Fryer's side. On Paul's side,
Are you looking for another tight end for Fryer, or is he just riding Foster Moreau?
is there anybody out there? There's been so many tight end issues this year.
Right. I don't know. I haven't
even looked. But
Uh-oh.
yeah, I mean, Duo's also looking for, or not Duo, Walker's also looking for a tight end Duo. I was thinking Walker because he had Pitts at the beginning. Duo's looking for
Yeah.
a tight end this week too. So bid high, Fryer. It'll be too late by the time you watch this, but whoever you're going for, if you're going for a guy. So looking at Paul's team, I'm moving Mitchell up into Swift's spot so that we can talk about whether we're playing Swift or somebody else in the flex, because Swift is not getting. I mean, he's had a rushing touchdown each of the last 2 weeks, but that's very much saved his day. He's played in 4 games straight now and is maxed out at 6 carries. Are we worried about that? I keep waiting for it to happen, but it's not going to happen against Buffalo, right? Like, get Drake London or Algier or somebody else in there.
I mean, it's hard to trust him, but
I don't know that I like these other options better, but I feel like you can't keep playing Swift and hoping for a touchdown to save you every week.
I have a feeling Tony may not play this week, so your London is going to have to go into the flex, which then leaves you with Algier, and I don't like that. I'm playing Swift for a chance over Algier.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think he has to leave it how it is, and then probably put London in over Tony.
Yeah, I mean, with that Washington defensive line, we've talked about it. I mean, London's your home run bet, I think, to try and keep up.
Right.
Also,
we dropped CEH at this point, right?
Yeah, he's toasted. Like he'll
be lucky to be on it too.
For Paul's team, whatever. I mean, the problem is you can hold him and hope that he gets a run again at some point, but like he's got Swift and Robinson and Mitchell, so he's not playing him anyway.
Yeah,
and there's really nobody else
at this point.
But there's nobody else on waivers that you're really going to pick up to feel more comfortable that like if he gets run, he's going to be better than CEH.
I mean, Fryer dropped Kareem Hunt to pick up one of the quarterbacks. Like there's guys out there that are better than CEH for damn sure.
Yeah.
That it's interesting to me. I don't know the last time that I saw a running back who had been the starter for at least a couple of years start the year with 19, 11, 9, and 21 points and literally fall off a cliff like the rest of the season, not necessarily due to injury. I think it speaks volume about what the Chiefs view CH as. So I would be fine dropping him if you find somebody out there that could play, say, instead of Swift, who, is another player who, like you said, Andy, 4 games has barely had any carries. So I think you got to make some moves if you want to try and get a win here or there. And it's not like Paul is completely, safe from being naked. He probably needs to make some moves to try and get out of that. Make sure he's not gonna, be close to that spot by the end of the year.
I think he's pretty safe, but
I mean, yeah, but it's not. But I guess my point is that you never know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 4 games left. He's in 10th. I would expect Kelly or Jeremy to take it, but he's there. It happens. But I thought that I was going to be naked for sure, and duo saved my life. Over like a 2-week time period last year. So like it can happen. So you got to make the moves, and it's a bold move. But I really don't see CH doing anything for him this year. You might as well go out in free agency and see if you can't pick up some upside instead.
So who's going to win? Fryer?
Fryer.
I almost want to go Paul because it is Fryer. He seems to play down against these type of opponents. Like his team always lets him down, but I'll go Fryer. His team's looking good. Devontae getting so much volume lately has been helping.
Cool. I'm glad you talked that one out to yourself. Let's move on to Walker.
No, I'm sorry. Are we not supposed to talk on a podcast? Am I supposed to just like not talk? Just look pretty? Because I can look pretty.
I didn't want you talking.
It's a lot more work for you to look pretty than to just keep talking.
If you could do me a favor, look pretty and talk about Walker versus Robbie, that'd be great.
Yeah.
We can do both. They're not like a either or situation. It's
Some of us can't do both, Ty.
Good thing
Tyler's never been
pretty. All I have to do is talk. I don't have to look pretty.
All right. I got Walker first. Looking at the bench, he's got Zeke, who's it shows questionable. I think he's supposed to play
Jones.
this week. Daniel Jones. And Murray. My theory with Murray is that he wanted to play Call of Duty without getting made fun of over the last few weeks. So he's not really hurt. He's just playing Call of Duty. So let's see here. How do you get Zeke into the lineup, I guess, is really the question. Because I don't know if you can leave him out of it. But he's got a lot of good players up there. So does Pollard go back to the bench? Do you trust Zeke?
I'm not benching Pollard at this point.
Right, like you can't. But like, I mean, are you benching Sanders? Are you benching Hopkins?
I'm not benching Sanders against Green Bay either.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if I'm getting Zeke in. I think that until we see Zeke fully overtake Pollard, he's riding pine.
That feels so weird.
It does feel weird. I agree.
He scored 2 touchdowns on 42 yards last week.
Yeah, they both had 15 carries. Pollard turned his into 80 yards. Zeke turned his into 42. Zeke had 2 on the ground. Pollard had something in the air. I don't remember because he had 30 points.
Right. I think you have to leave Pollard in at this point. And part of the reason I'm saying you have to keep Miles Sanders in right now is because they play Green Bay.
Yeah, Green Bay's running defense has been really, really bad.
Now, when they play Tennessee next week, I might make that a change just because Tennessee's defense is tougher against the run. But we'll worry about that one when it comes.
Are you guys just thinking that we're starting Daniel Jones? Apparently Murray wasn't even it said he was questionable last week, but looking at the Yahoo thing, it's like, nope, he wasn't even really questionable. He was pretty much out, which would have helped Walker out a lot if he knew that information, I'm sure.
Well, this is a Dan Jones plays before Kyler Murray. So if you're not going to play Dan Jones, you better find somebody else for Sunday.
Yeah, learn from your mistakes.
Or you go down here and drop Henderson and pick up a third quarterback if you really like Dan Jones.
Is there anywhere that Henderson could land that you're like, oh, goody?
Denver.
Is that good though?
Even I don't know. It's not good. Not with Edmonds.
Like Miami, but
Murray.
Miami doesn't need him.
No.
The Eagles, he'd just be lost there.
I mean, it's not going to happen, but maybe Chicago to replace Herbert.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's anywhere out there that would reasonably be expected to sign him that I'd be like, oh, good. Henderson
Right.
is fixed now.
Like I'm just trying to think of the good running teams, and I'm not seeing a spot necessarily for him within those.
The only other team I could say would be like the Jets. They have a good running game, but they just grabbed Robinson and they've got Carter, but could Henderson be better than that?
Nah, I don't think Henderson's going to be necessarily. I think he's
even
pretty
if
much
he
the
is,
same
he
as
wouldn't
Robinson.
come in and take over right away.
Right.
Yeah. So
No. All right, let's
go to Robbie.
Yep, going to Robbie.
I don't think
he's got on the bench options would be Mooney, Myers, Dillon, Kyron Williams might be an interesting play. And you have to replace. I mean, you're not going to replace Lamb, Cooper, Barkley. Najee after last week isn't going to be a change. Kenneth Walker's a lock-in, so I think you're probably keeping it where it's at. I mean, maybe
the Giants
if you're worried,
defense is the only thing I'm worried about.
Yeah.
I was going to say is that Amari Cooper is probably the one I would be worried about from a positional standpoint against a decent enough Tampa Bay defense, but I think you keep your studs in. So yeah, defense would be you got to go get someone on waivers and play him over that.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
Yeah, I'm not sitting on the Giants this week.
Dallas is an ugly matchup. Yeah, you got to change that. I don't think you can rely on the Giants here.
You can keep the Giants and drop your second kicker.
That's true. McPherson, if I remember right, he's missed some kicks recently. Granted, against Pittsburgh, he went off, but I think he had struggled before that. He had been slumping pretty hard, so I don't know. Who would you guys drop, McPherson or Myers? McPherson looks good because of the last game for sure, but he was slumping hard before that.
Myers has been good, but if it's gonna rain in Vegas or rain in Seattle, then I don't know that I'm playing him.
Yeah, Myers has had a really consistent year. He's only got one game over 15, but he's only got one game under 6. And McPherson's been a bit more down, I guess. He had the 18-pointer last week, but the weeks before that was a 6-1-5, like not as big. I think Myers has been more steady and consistently better than McPherson, so I'm fine going that way unless weather looks concerning, but it's got to be more than a little bit of rain to actually matter.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's got to be like a really heavy rain. And I mean, it rains in Seattle all the time. Like that's just something that happens. So, but to me, that's one of the more interesting like kicker battles, I guess, because McPherson, I feel like, does have the ability to obviously to put up a massive amount with the offense that he's in, and I think he's a talented kicker. But man, he got in his own head a little bit there in the last like 3 or 4 games. So
all right. So enough with that's the most kicker airtime we've ever given anybody, and we need
listen. We had to set records on our podcast every once in a while.
This is what happens when Boyer misses a week. He gets it all in the next week. Like you're making up for lost time, bud. You just got to show up. That's what I'm saying.
I'm trying to be like a producer here too, and be like, gosh, you guys suck at this. Let's keep this shit under an hour and a half.
So no joke this week.
No 15-minute joke this week.
I'll save it. I'll save it.
I already asked the question who's going to win. You guys are the ones talking now. So let's go. Who's winning?
You can go touch yourself later, all right? Knock off this bullshit. I'm taking Robbie.
I'm going Robbie too because of the whole Kyler situation. That's a bummer.
Warriors could go against us. Do it. Let me make up some ground this week, baby.
I'm going to go with Walker. I like top to bottom his players a lot. I think he'll learn from his mistake last week and figure out his quarterback situation.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Robbie and Boyer both have tough matchups this week. Fryer doesn't have a tough matchup this week. So there's a chance that at the end of this week, Fryer's second in the top division.
Don't talk to me about it, Andy.
Well, let's talk about let's talk about the current leader of the top division. Andy versus Mr. Charlie, pulling up 5 wins here. Already shocking the world. Let's see what he can do. Charlie has Higbee against Kansas City or Greg Dulcich against Carolina. Thoughts on the tight end situation?
I think I'm leaving Higbee in. The game script in Kansas City we've already talked about. I like Dulcich, but he had a couple of games where we thought there was going to be something there, and then after the bye, he's got 1 for 11 and 4 for 30, and also the Broncos are still really bad. So
I was gonna say it might not be Dulcich. It might just be the product of that offense again.
yeah, and like the Rams are also really bad, but Higbee gets more looks, and I'm not jazzed about either of these guys. So that I just cast my vote with the target volume.
And to say it's a offensive issue, it's a quarterback issue, which is weird to say about Russell Wilson, but I don't trust him at all. So I'll go with Higbee.
All right. So outside of that, you've got Claypool against the Jets, Palmer against Arizona. Consideration on putting Claypool or Palmer in and getting rid of Fournette or Pacheco? Because I imagine we're keeping Davis and Godwin
in. Keep Pacheco. Fournette, I got to look at his injury. If that becomes a thing, then that might answer the question for you.
Schefter says hit pointer not expected to miss any games. That's as of 8 days ago because they had the bye. So I don't see anything more recent than that.
Yeah. So I think you leave it as is. I don't think you get too cute on this one. I think you do keep an eye on Fournette's usage for the next few weeks, but in this week, I think you got to keep the lineup where it's at.
If Mike Williams is out, I'm starting Josh Palmer.
I think I'm with Boyer on this one. I think until we see Fournette fully fall off a cliff, I'm keeping him in my lineup. I like Palmer, especially if Williams is out, but I'm still playing Fournette until he tells me not to.
Yeah, he still had 14 attempts. It's not like they've completely given up on him or anything. So until they do, you got to kind of play your studs a little bit.
Okay, fair enough. All right, then let's jump over to Andy's side.
This might take a while.
I would say your bench is always giving us content to talk about, Andy.
Herbert versus Tua, first off.
Both have decent matchups.
I almost think Herbert has a better matchup for the sake of Houston just ran all over. So Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert making a lot of work this week.
So I think Herbert is the better talent, but I don't think you bench Tua here. He's got 3 straight games with 3 touchdowns. He's got a crazy receiving core. I don't think you can bench Tua, especially for Herbert, who's been struggling off and on. He's getting some weapons back, sure. I think you just got to keep Tua in, and maybe Herbert comes in on for the playoffs for Andy, but I'm not benching Tua at this point. He's been too consistently good.
Because Andy's playing Charlie, I'm going to agree to leave Tua in. It gives you this for sure the safer play.
Yeah, he's been consistent as all get out. So
all right. With that, Joe Mixon is questionable. I don't know what that's going to look like, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. If Mixon is out, we're moving Gibson up, and we are playing somebody in the flex. Sorry.
There's options.
I burped up some beer there, and it was not great. So
Which one?
Um,
Which beer, Ty? Was that the
the an-
anti-hero or the one
That's the
with the
anti-
Kona?
yeah,
Definitely the
no, the
IPA.
anti-hero.
Yeah. IPAs will do that to you.
All right. So then he's got DJ Moore, Juju. Not sure what that injury situation is looking like right now either. He was in concussion protocol last week. So my guess is he'll be back this next week, but we're not sure. Alan Lazard against Philly. We talked about Philly having a tough defense. And Alan Lazard has been getting the targets, but not been getting huge volume with Christian Watson taking a lot of that red zone, taking a lot of the touchdowns. DJ Moore, Lazard, Juju, or Michael Carter, assuming Mixon is out. If Mixon's in, I'm leaving Gibson in. I'm not touching it. But if Mixon is out, who are you playing, Boyer?
I'd probably go. Man, I think Lazard probably has a decent enough floor, but Philly's defense is tough, and the Packers' offense hasn't looked good. Not DJ Moore. If Juju plays, I'm fine with that, but I'd probably lean Michael Carter because the Bears' rush defense has been hot garbage since they, sold their whole team. So I think I'd probably lean Michael Carter just off of pure matchup at that point.
All right, I'm putting Juju in if Mixon is out.
I'm leaning with Boyer. I'm probably playing Carter, trying to lock in as many points as I can, and I expect Carter to be able to get at least 5 or 6 points against the Bears, and that's if he doesn't score a touchdown. So, yeah.
The Bears defense has given up like 40 points to good offenses and still given up like 30 points to bad offenses. So I think there's a really good chance that Carter has a good game here, and I think it's almost a home run.
Sure. All right, so Andy's going to win. Anybody else have to say?
I mean, the only thing that keeps Andy from winning is if Fields ends up running for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. But I'm going to pick Andy because I don't think that happens. But it's still scary.
But I agree with Boyer that the fact that Fields can just go for 40 whenever he feels like it is not my favorite thing to be staring at.
Especially while you're watching the game as a Bears fan. I have to imagine that's just going to be all sorts of sweaty.
Right? Especially if I have to play Carter. That's not going to be fun to have to cheer against the Bears.
Yeah, at that point, just turn off the game and go do something around the house. Clean something.
Fields has the shoulder injury, so I don't think that he's going to be out, but maybe.
Yep. So, all right, we all got Andy in this one. And with that, we locked up week 12. I think after this week, we'll come at you guys with some playoff picture next week when things clear up. But otherwise, minus the length, tell us how you felt about it. Like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell, do the things with the buttons. Yeah, I don't think they're up there, but whatever. All right, on that, enjoy your Thanksgiving, enjoy football for this week, and we're out.